young, she had a pocket full of horses, Trojans of abuse. Saturday night, I guess that makes it alright. Use what have I got to lose? Know that I baby, you're much too fast. You need a love that's gonna last. Guess I should've closed my eyes when you drove me to the place where your horses run free. I felt a little ill when I saw all the pictures of the jockeys that were there before me. But believe it or not, I started to worry. Wondered if I was Saturday.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. It is Friday. Ken is stacking some days, adding value. We got Gary in the house. It is Friday. So Red Dog promised that he will be doing a 6:30 club on a Friday because usually it's been Monday through Thursday since 2020. I said, if you join Red Dog Mindset, I will do 6:30 clubs when I can on Friday. So if you're watching the 6:30 club right now and you didn't join the Red Dog Mindset, guess what happens? Karma is a you know what. Nah, I'm kidding. Nothing wrong will go on. You could just tune in for free for 6-7 years, get value, maybe get some feeding of the brain on the weekend and just tune in or subscribe above to everything. Anyway, with that being said, it is Friday. We've had a nice week, a lot of things going on. Trends continue. Spies made a new high yesterday. Q's played a little catch up. Semis, we finally caught a really good semi trade and feels like it's going to continue. And, we just got to keep moving our feet using a tier system, using our day count rules, and having a go-to list of 40 names and definitely rotate them through based on the setup. What up, Jazz? What up, Joey? Joey Aids. So with that being said, some people are like, why is this happening? Every weekend I also post like, a thing of charts, right? Chart patterns, sometimes candlesticks. I'm like, candlesticks matter. Chart patterns matter. They can make you money more than a TV set or Michael Burry, or Mike Wilson. These guys don't make you money. Your process, your routine makes you money. And if you look here, remember Fed Day. This was the day that everyone said the market was over, and then we repaired real quick. You got to know what it means when a chart repairs or negates a candle. Right here, this candle could have meant something, but it got negated. So you had a day or two to switch fields or switch gears. And then look at how fast that was. And then all of a sudden you had a bull flag, right? That's what that is, right? A continuation pattern letting the 8-day catch up. And then boom, yesterday, another new high. So some people are like, what's the measured move of this pattern? If you go like just really 720 to 760, that's 40 points, that's 800. Just doing it very easily. But anyway, we'll see how that goes. The Qs, Qs also had a nice move. A lot of patterns here that if you educate yourself on technical analysis, which a lot of people think they know technical analysis, but it's very, very useful. Better than a TV set and better than Michael Burry or Mike Wilson or even me. You could go to AI and say, hey, AI, show me what a bull flag is and what it means. Anyway, a quick move above a descending trend line held. You could have been a buyer versus 708. We talk about how if gaps don't get filled, usually you move in the same direction as that gap. And after a bunch of days of consolidation, we started to go. And it looks like we're going to be taking out 748 at some point. And within the indices, you get stocks on the move, right? So this week we focused on MU. Wasn't easy. Definitely wasn't easy. I know the other day I was so pissed off. It was like Wednesday, and all of a sudden I'm trying to play MU to break above the descending trend line. Finally gets above 930. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, right, Doug, Michael Burry says he's doubling down short on MU and NBIS. Stock pulls in like, $20, so it takes a little bit of money away. But guess what we did? We bought more MULL, and then yesterday they squeezed them, and then today MU's up 24 points. So don't just follow somebody because they made some money. Actually made a lot of money in 2007-8, but so did we all. I traded during the financial crisis. I traded through the tech bubble bursting. I traded through the pandemic, but But I also frame trades for you guys where if I'm wrong, you use a stop. You don't blow up. And if I'm right, hopefully you make some money. Sometimes you make a single, double, or triple. I like to be a single hitter. Singles. Anyway, yesterday's high was what, 978. It's close to that. SanDisk led the way this week. SanDisk was a nice trade post earnings. They bought it in the hole, and look at this candlestick. Took out this range, went to 1580. SanDisk up a whopping 84 points if you're in that. So again, look at the chart patterns, because the chart patterns don't lie. Only analysts do. Chart patterns give you the footprint of money. So do options. A lot of people use options like heat seekers to see where the flow is going, etc. But this is where a lot of us made our money this week. This was even a power play. People like, Red Dog, you put MU as a power play? I'm like, I know a lot of people can't handle it. Just keep your size down and give it bigger ranges. I think it went on as a power play at like 925. So you're up a decent amount. I think we took a third off yesterday. So moving along, Intel, for those who are a little slower, not to say it's own slower than someone else, but people sometimes like thicker names. And we were buying this week, same spot that they were selling billions. The billions were to somebody. So we're like, we'll buy it with you. So anyway, 96.50-ish is where we bought it. It cleared this. I'm still long some, so that's nice. It's nice when that happens. Even Tesla. Only when Tesla's working, they call it Tesla, because Redler. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that's what we do we have fun on the Alpha team. So anyway, I do think Tesla fills a big portion of this gap. I wasn't sure if it would. So down here, I was buying options. I was buying the 340s and the 342s. And then then they did shake the tree a little bit 2 days ago and then had a nice candle. And now it seems like Tesla, hopefully, I don't know how much of this gap it'll fill, but if it can get above and stay above 342, there's like 20 points in here. 20 points if it wants to fill this gap somewhat. So that's a nice setup. Different types of setups. There's all different types of setups. You got to learn setups, right? Look for setups, not for tops. Look for setups, not that this isn't going to end well. Look for setups, right? That's what makes you money. And they're all different types. Some work better than others. AMAT had good earnings. It's still down. AMAT is kind of doing the same thing. Wasn't SanDisk down on really good earnings? And then it put its low in post earnings and then didn't look back yet. So I would say look at 511 for AMAT. I'm not going to probably trade it, but you could probably buy it in the hole. It's down 30. That's actually a lot. This is what price is that? That's 511. What's this price? This is 491. So what I would say is for AMAT, look for a 5, 15, 30-minute low, and maybe you could buy it versus that if you think the earnings were that good. But it's below 511. It's above 491. See how that goes. I haven't traded AMAT all year. It hasn't been really one of the names, but they also sold down. They try and sell things off on good news if they think it's priced in, but it's not like AMAT's up here. If AMAT was up here, it'd be hard for it to go up. AMAT in the middle of the range, you would think it's buyable, right? We'll see. Can you frame a Boeing trade? Sure. Boeing, not as great so far. Boeing tried to break out above this descending trend line, wasn't quite ready. Wasn't really a Dow week anyway. So I would think as long as Boeing holds the 21-day here, I think it's still intact. Like, you had a really nice trade, so from 221 to a high of 241, it's a big move. So this isn't so bad, so I would think maybe it holds 228. That would be nice. Make it easier for you guys to sit in it. But Boeing is never an easy trade. Boeing doesn't trade like a tech stock, but the backlog is huge and has a lot of defense as well. I would think, if I wanted to make a call, I would say Boeing will be above 254 at some point in the fall. Some point, I would think it fills that scenario, as long as hopefully, God forbid, a door blows off or something like that. So Boeing, I think, is doing just fine. It's just it went from 203 from the low end of the range to the high end of the range. Isn't that cute? Anyway, I think Boeing is just fine. SpaceX, wow. You guys remember it was 2 weeks ago. I was in here with you guys and I'm like, experience matters. I remember trading Facebook when Facebook failed the art of the first day, when it failed at 40 and was getting sold every day. And then the cover of Barron's, I think, said $10. The lockup, oh my goodness, everyone got scared. The media scared everyone out of their stocks. It was down for 10 seconds and never saw another down day. Well, going into the SpaceX lockup, I said, I think it does the same thing. People are like, Red Dog, you're out of your mind. Everyone on TV saying it's going to 70, it's going to 60. I'm like, I don't care what they say on TV. You know what? We have 104 to trade against. I'll sell $95 puts. I'll sell $90 puts. And then I was on my way to Montauk. And I go, Mike from T3. I go, Mike, I think SpaceX is a power play. Let's do it. So he sends out a note to the entire power play audience. Red Dog's power plays where I tell you what to do. I think we bought it at 110, and then we sold it above 135. That's a nice little power play. When everybody else was running for the hills, we were getting in the war, but it wasn't really a war. All he had is 104 to trade against, not an opinion. And then it cleared the 8-day. So anyway, I think it can go sideways. My target was right here into the next lockup, which is August 21st, and it's only August 14th. So we'll see if it goes sideways and maybe even continue more. Someone said, what's my thoughts on light? These things are really hard to trade. I would say you could be long versus 836 and it could work its way higher. I think that's fine. But be careful there. What else did somebody just ask me about? Could I show you Amazon? Amazon has been a pain in the ass. Really, really pain in the ass. Excuse my French. Hopefully 262 gap holds. We did make a lot of money on the call spread into earnings, but since then it's been trickling from 287 down. Maybe you get a Red Dog reversal around yesterday's low at 264. What's a Red Dog reversal? Well, it trades below a level, trades back above it, and gives you a point of reference. So if Amazon were to just say trade below 264, reclaim it, give you a little bottom tail, maybe that's an entry, and then maybe it's calculated. Amazon has not been great. Where we made a lot of our money this week was really in MULL or MUU, which was corresponding to MU. And we'll see what that does today. Definitely trim and trail into, when a gap is in your favor. What else made us money this week? Oh, Nvidia. Somebody asked me, Red Dog, what do I think of Nvidia? I said, well, I think at some point next week, it's going to be kissing 232 to 236. Most likely pre-earnings, maybe even today it gets to 230. I like Nvidia a lot. I think that, I was talking about it the other day. If the major money guys who are the major money, I'm not a major money guy. I'm just a regular guy that, does a sauna workout in the morning with my friends around the world called the 20-5-20. Get my mind right. Then I sit here at the 630 Club with you guys and I go over the tactics and the charts, and then I get on the radio with the Alpha team, and then I frame 40 charts and I trade, and then I do some push-ups at lunch. Just a regular guy. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. But anyway, if I were to be taking Anthropic public in September, I would want a great market environment, right? If I wanted to package Nvidia with the 5 biggest wirehouses in the world, which is what they're doing, and I think it's not really going to end well, but who cares? That's 2-3 years from now, not this week or next week. Kind of reminds me of the mortgage-backed securities where they stripped it, sold it around the world, and then when the housing market fell apart, it caused a crisis. But that's probably a 2029 story, not a 2026 story. But what my moral of my story is, if they want a really good market environment to get these friggin' behemoth companies that have been private for too long public in September, they're going to want a stock market higher. How do you get a stock market higher? Just get Nvidia to 240 and the stock market will be higher, and it's right here above the moving averages. It looks pretty good. So I have some calls for next week. I'm long some stock, and I think that it'll have a decent pre-earnings run. And if they want to sell this product for yield at some point, Nvidia's got to be doing well, not poorly. So those are the 5, big dogs in the world, getting together. So I just think there's going to be a plan to get this to 245. So what you probably could do is buy some options pre-earnings, buy some options post-earnings. And in my humble opinion, I think this thing goes higher. Anyway, software. Software had a good day yesterday. Yes, it did. Look what WDY did. The workday, holy cow, what a big move. Probably needs to digest. Microsoft gave you a new point of reference. After a big move, look at that pro earnings gap right here. Another gap there, hit a peak. So some guys are long now versus 491. I still think it needs time. I kind of think ServiceNow is a nice setup. I'm long that. Had a nice little active sequence up, held the 8-day. You have a bull flag. ServiceNow, I like to see a lot. It's not even above where it was in June. So everyone's like, oh my God, software is doing fantastic. I'm like, well, it's had a move. I wouldn't say fantastic. Some things are better than others, but I would think service now that's above the 200-day is something that has a nice setup into next week. What's really beautiful, look at snow. You know nothing, Jon Snow. This was holding a higher while the software was just kind of regrouping. So that was, that was basically the leader of the pack. Remember that song, Leader of the Pack? Rod asked me to look at FTNT. I'll look at that for you, my dog. FTNT. Oh, looking tight up here. This is a sloppy name, though, I'll tell you, to be honest. But if you want me to frame the trade, I think you could be long this thing. Verse, what's that? 158, be long verse 158. And if it wants to get above and stay above, which is a very sophisticated technical term, it will have to get above and stay above right here, which is 172.09. Sometimes it's better to be long versus support and then add for momentum, and then you get two tiers to work to make you some money, right? Who's the money honey? Anybody remember? Test, money honey. Come on, you guys know who the money honey is. And now she's the experienced honey. I was on with her a bunch of times. Anybody awake? Dell. Yes, Dell was the same thing. I framed this trade 100 times for everybody. Dell, I said you could be long verse 415. You could have been long verse this big gap right here. Yes, Maria. See, someone's awake. Maria Bartiroma. I've been on Bloomberg a bunch of times with her and Alex Steele. But anyway, yeah, you could have been long verse 357. It never filled the gap. You could have been long versus a higher low. And then boom, look at that move. That's nice. Even nicer if you had it from down there. Wow, Michael Dell, the man. Anyway, let's move along. I think Marvell's worth a look. It's trading around here. It's a little bit of a pain in the tuchus. You know what a pain in the tuchus is? My wife. No, I'm kidding. She's not a pain in the tuchus. She's great. You could be long versus 201, and then maybe next time it gets above 230, it's got some room to go. So I think Marvell has a good pattern also. Iron made us a lot of money. Some people are like, oh my God, Iron's so bad because they bought it yesterday. I'm like, where were you when we were buying Iron when it was tight? When were you when we were buying 3 sets of Iron calls on Monday prior to NBIS and CoreWeave? Anyway, Iron just probably needs a little bit of time now, right? It just went from 32 to 49. Prior support turns into resistance. Now it needs to do a little bit of work. So it's doing just fine. This was a huge, huge play for us. Anyway, I think I went over it too on the alpha. Obviously, the alpha team gets to see all my positions, but did in the 630 club. So anyway, if you're just tuning in now, it is 6:48. It is August 14th. SPY's trying to clear a bull flag. Q's trying to play some catch up, and we're getting paid in some of the memory names. I promised a 630 club on our Friday the same way you guys said you would subscribe to Red Dog Mindset. So you can get the 2520, the 630 club. Ask me anything. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to be doing live on the fly. If you're watching this and you didn't subscribe, you better get a bird to do what on your head, because that's bad karma. You're tuning in when you're not supposed to. But if that's you, you know what? That's probably how you live your life. No, I'm kidding. You probably live your life great. Just like to freeload everywhere. No, I'm kidding. You're not freeloading. If you've been watching since 2020 for 6+ years, getting some value. Anyway, so Iron, I would say, holds a little bit here and just needs some time to digest. But this was a really nice trade. Been selling premium against Iron Leaps. That's cool. It's a good way to do it. Netflix had a bit of, a lot of people making some money in Netflix ever since. Guess what? You didn't have, some people took Netflix into earnings, which we never take stock into earnings as a active trader who wants to get paid for a living. We just don't do it. I don't do it. You could have done it post, right? Went down, gave you 65 to trade against, gave you a post earnings low, and it's been trending since. And now Ackman's back involved, and it seems like, hey, maybe once the 100-day, the 200-day, it's very slow. If you want a slow name, this has been very slow, but it's moving up. By the way, anyone watch Lioness on Paramount? The first 2 episodes were awesome. What a great friggin' show. She kicks ass. Anyway, there's some good shows out there. Sometimes it's good when you're sitting at your desk and not over trading. You watch a show. You could do that too. Anyway, so this has some room, I would think. You slow and steady, new active sequence. Anyway, let's move along. What else people are asking me about? Oklo. It's not really compelling, but I remember when we traded from 28 to 193 before the red dog reversal sell, and I broke the 8-day at 152. Well, here it is down here. Sometimes when rallies extend, they come for old names. Okay, and this is like one of those names that might be able to have a move. So I'm long some. If it were to get above 49-ish, I think there's a move here. So there's a reason, little reason. Always have a reason to be in your trade, and if the reason changes, that's when you put your stop. Not in a dollar amount, not a percentage. If the reason you're in a trade gets negated by the market, that's when you switch some gears. Anyhow, what's up, Gary? I saw your brother at the Wolf. The Wolf. That was a great live event. Hopefully, you went to the Wolf live event. What was it? Was it a week ago or was it 2 weeks ago? It was 2 weeks ago. Anyway, get out. I actually just signed on with Pete and John Nigerian. I'm going to be in them in October. Going to be part of their wealth event in Vegas. We'll get that information. That'll be cool. I haven't been to Vegas in a while. I used to go to the Money Show all the time, and then became, just not worth it. But anyway, what do I think about Apple? I'll leave you with the apple of my eye, which it isn't right now. There's a worm in Apple right now. No, hey, you could be long versus 300. 300 is holding. So if you're technical and you want a point of reference, you could be long Apple versus 300. It was the place to be prior. Earnings were not enough, I guess, or they just wanted to rotate the money. Big gap down, I would think that you could be a buyer versus spot. And then maybe it works higher. For it to break and you're active, you get out of the way. Because here, you frame the trade. You could be a buyer versus 300. That's the spot. And if it starts working, great. If it breaks that spot, it can go lower, so you get out. If you're an investor in Apple, you've been an investor for a decade, guess what? You don't care about this. You've been making tons of money and you're an investor. That's the difference between being a trade. So anyway, I do think it's worth a try versus 300. And if we start working higher, maybe it also gets into the gap, but that might be a September story when it gets a little closer to the different phone releases. I want to see that foldable phone. I think the foldable phone is going to be fantastic, and I will probably get one because I have like a 60-inch TV in my living room, and I find myself in my bed a lot watching my show going to sleep. So a foldable phone would be nicer. Anyway, that would cause probably a whole new super cycle, because it's a new product. It's not just like iPhone 427. It'll be a foldable one. That means you probably need new adapters, new plugins, new this, new that. But anyway, with that being said, it'd be nice for Tesla to get into the gap and fill a portion to make us some cash flow. So it is 6:52. I've been doing this for 22 minutes. I've told my partners I'm only allowed to do a 20-minute 6:30 club, so I'm already at 22. I told you I would do one on a Friday, and today's a Friday. You said you'd sign up for Red Dog Mindset. If you're watching this and you didn't, no. But actually, if you're a member of the Alpha Team, you guys get to watch everything. You're a part of the premium Red Dog everything. You get to be on the radio, see my 40 charts, see my positions live. Like, these are my positions. The Alpha Team gets to see them. They get to see them, and they get to watch me trim and trail and do some things and give some confidence besides all the charts that go up here. That's why I spend the rest of the morning listening to Michael Jackson radio and doing charts.